if you don't mind. Okay, our next speaker is the founder of the main branch, David Scott. We are absolutely delighted to have him here. He is a tech visionary with over 25 years of experience, which is a long time in this fast-moving industry called tech that we all know and love. And David is known for pioneering emerging technologies and holding multiple patents, including an accelerated AI training method. As the CEO of the main branch, he consults Fortune 500 R&D teams and sits on the Taproot Ventures board, focusing on AI and computer vision. My friends, remember, there's no such thing as a food coma at YOLO Vision. So give your very warmest, loudest welcome. Give it up for David Scott. Thank you.
Hey guys. Surprised how many of you stuck around after lunch. So I'm going to talk about AI. A colleague of mine says all the time, science doesn't sell, which kind of offends a lot of us here because we really like science. AI is really cool. Why would people not just buy it? But the reality is people don't want to just buy it because we think it's cool. They have to have a reason to buy it. So a lot of times clients will come to my company and they'll ask for a session to sit and talk about how they can use AI, which doesn't really make any sense to me because that's like a solution looking for a problem. It's kind of backwards. So it's hard to explain that to people that are business minded, but the reality is we don't really take those kind of conversations. We take the conversation where people say, I have this problem, and we'll introduce AI as a solution to the problem. So almost all the AI solutions that we've developed over the years require some kind of analysis beyond just detecting what's on the scene. So you can identify what's there, but what do you do with it now that you know that it's there? You got to do something useful, or there's no value that you're adding to the entire chain. So I think that crazy Irishman already talked about this one. We can skip this. This is just about the company. Okay, what's behavioral tracking? I'm sure a lot of you already have ideas, just so we're on the same page. We want AI to help us with the mundane tasks. We don't want it doing stuff for us, but we want it doing the things that are boring. So behavior tracking is just doing the things that we already identify. We already do this. If you see an animal and it's rolling around on the floor, you know it's rolling around on the floor. But if rolling around on the floor indicates that it has a sickness or an illness or something, it would be really nice to know that it was rolling around on the floor so you could do something about it. But we can't watch the animal all the time. And this is a really nice use case for AI. If it can detect it could just sit there 24/7 watching the animal. When the animal starts rolling around, it sends us an alert and we can go do something about it. There's something actionable. Now there's a price we can put on it. Now people are willing to pay for it because it does something for them. So behavioral tracking. So throughout this slide, you're going to see YOLO V8, not YOLO 11, even though 11 came out, because I don't know why. I guess because I'm a CEO and people don't tell me the important things. But this is all for YOLO V8. So 8 gives us some really incredible functionality, right? Classify, detect, track. There's some really cool stuff in YOLO V8. But we don't really get a lot of behavioral tracking capabilities out of it. So we added our own layer on top of it. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here is how did we do it? What did we add? What were kind of the steps that we took to get behavioral tracking plus YOLO V8? So we had some projects. We had a project in specific that came up where a very large client said they wanted to identify health issues with cows. So think about a huge feedlot that has tens of thousands of cows on it, and they want us to uniquely identify every single animal and look for any health issues that that animal might have by observing behavior. My AI team said we were crazy to take that project, but we took it. And so some of the things that we had to do to solve this, we had to do identification. We had to know which animal was which, because if you're going to do any behavioral identification or tracking on an animal, you have to be able to correlate it all back to the same animal. So we sat down in a room for 2 days. We did a 2-day workshop with the client. We wrote out every single thing that they wanted to do, and it was a list of 200 behaviors. There's no way we're going to do 200 behaviors, but as a consultant, my job was to tell them sure, and we'll put it on the roadmap. So we got started, but every single one of those 200 things that they wanted to do required identification, because it was all behavioral stuff. It was all stuff about the animal that we couldn't do without identification. So we did that. This is a video. So we're running side-by-side videos here, and you can see the G none on all of those, and they start resolving. This is 2 different runs of the same video. And the intention here is to ensure that they eventually resolve to the same ID. So if you sit there and loop it and watch it over and over at every single animal, you'll find that they always resolve to the same ID. So we are looking at the animal and able to determine that that animal is that specific animal, even if we forget it or we lose track of it in between it walking around and coming in contact with other animals. So we solved that. We had to do tracking. We had to bump up the tracking a little bit because we have these animals, they go into these, we call them huddles. So these cows goes into these huddles where we can't see them anymore, and then they come back out and we have to track them again. So we have to correlate that ID across the different huddles to make sure that we have the same one. The other project that we did that was really relevant to as well was this project for Horsewise. So we're basically, think of very similar requirements for horses. Observe behaviors. So as you can see, we've identified this horse is eating. We have his respiratory rate, but that's a different topic for a different conversation. But in this one, we didn't really need ID that much, but we definitely needed the behaviors. So we're just trying to show across all the projects that we're working on, that behavior is critical in order to deliver value to the end customer. I don't know exactly where this came from. It was on a website that Vision.io. I don't know what technology they're using. They were one of the ones that popped up when we were doing some investigation into how to do behavioral analysis and tracking. They claim that they can detect people that are shoplifting, which is a behavior tracking and interesting from our perspective. But as we dug into it and other similar things, it seemed like what they were doing is doing pose detection. So specific poses would lend themselves to an indication of a behavior. But individual poses doesn't really give you a true indication of behavior. There's lots of reasons someone might have their hand in their pocket. That doesn't mean they're shoplifting. I'm not trying to pick on this company. I'm sure they do wonderful things. I'm just saying that the industry as a general doesn't really seem to do great with tracking, behavior tracking. Okay, so how we did it. Here's how we get into how we did it. So we had to create our own data set of the animal. So this is looking at cows specifically. And we had to increase the bone count to 145 from the normal 17 that comes in Ultralytics. We trained this on a huge data set, so 2 million images, 110 million instances of examples of the animals themselves. So, right, because in one image you'll get lots of animals in it. So we trained it for 1,000 epochs. This is a huge amount of time on any conventional system. We had to go to Scott Data Center. They're out in Omaha, actually. They have a big DGX system, and it trained it in it took it from about 2 weeks down to about 2 days. It was remarkable. Absolutely fantastic system. Loved it. So once we trained it, we were able to feed that those bone positions into our custom behavior model. So we built a custom behavior model, which basically takes into account multiple frames in order to do it. So this trained model we were able to feed in there. And because we have the additional granularity with the additional bones, we were able to get a lot more indicators of the actual behavior than we would otherwise be able to get. So the one that we trained for this particular client has 8 classes in it currently: eating, drinking, lying down. You can read through them. And that's been so far really driving value, not only for the client, but for the client's customers. Because this allows us to record how often the animal's laying down, normalize that against the entire herd's behavior, and say, well, this animal is laying down 10% more than normal, and the rest of the herd is normal. So something's going on with this animal because it's laying down more than the normalized herd value. Same with the rest of these. So that's been helpful there. So building a custom behavior model, like I said, we keep a list of all the key points, right? We defined a bunch of additional key points, keep a list of all of them, and train off of those. So all of those behaviors are really simple behaviors. They're not complex behaviors. They're all simple. We do believe we can do the same thing to do complex behaviors. And we believe we can do it without training every combination. In other words, we can combine them together. So we haven't done the complex behaviors yet, but that's what we're working on next. So are they going to lay down? Are they standing up? Are they doing these things that we would expect? For example, if the animal's standing up and it keeps falling down, that's a complex behavior that indicates extreme sickness that we should look at right away. Or drunkenness, I suppose. Accuracy is really high. We're really happy with these accuracy numbers. Part of what we tell our clients when we're talking about potential AI solutions is you have to give it room to fail. If you don't give AI room to fail, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because at the end of the day, it's statistical, right? There's going to be times where it doesn't recognize it. So all of our AI solutions tend to be looking at what happens if it fails, and if it does fail, does it impact something in a large way? So for example, with the herd sense solution, if we don't pick up an identity on an animal, if we wait 5 minutes, it'll pop back up, and it's okay that we missed it for a minute. Or if we miss a particular behavior, it's okay because it'll happen again, and we're looking for trends. Summary. I think I'm really early. I guess we're going to have a long stump the chump session, aren't we? So you could read the summary. I guess we can try to stump the chump if you want.
But first, I think a big round of applause. That was fascinating. Absolutely. Hashtag TIL, the IOC stands for Internet of Cows. Excellent. I like this very much. Improving animal welfare using vision AI, computer vision, automation, all the good stuff right there. But do we have any questions? Any questions? So that can be questions about life, the universe, and everything, or questions about the work of the main branch, or specific questions for David about that presentation.
He's got one over there.
We got one. Okay, shoot.
Hello, this is Henry from Open Systems. I have actually 2 questions, if possible. The first question is if you have in your team some expert to label the dataset. And the second one is more related with your object tracking. I would like to know if it can work in multiple cameras and what are the advantages against other techniques, classic techniques like RAI identification. Thank you.
So the first question, we do very large amounts of annotation on a very large sets of images. And how we accomplish that is somewhat of a trade secret. If you want to come find me after, I'll give you a little more information, but I don't think I want to share that with everybody in the internet. This group is fine. I've talked to most of you.
If we could just switch off the internet for a moment. No.
The second question, sorry, I have a small brain. Only one thing fits in there at a time. Can you say it again?
Yeah, no worry. The second question was more related with your product, with your object tracking, and what are the advantages against other models like brand identification, and if your model can work in multiple cameras?
Yeah, the model works in multiple cameras. So the way we set up most of these solutions is that the cameras are all meshed together on location, and then we backhaul the data because we do all of the calculation on the edge. So we run, I guess competitors should probably close their ears at this point, but this guy's following me around.
You can speak in riddles.
We run it on the Jetson Orange, and we mesh them all together. So if the behavior is tracked on one, and it's very likely it's also being tracked on the other that can still see it, but we're still sending the metadata through our backhaul channels to a server. So we're still recording the same metadata, even if it comes from different cameras. So if we're looking for trends across that behavior, we can still find it.
Interesting. Like it very much. Thank you for being as detailed as possible without giving away any kind of important commercial stuff. My dear friends, do we have another question? Just shoot your hand up there, and I think we might do. Yes, excellent. Okay, the cube of power is flying across the room, and we have amazing teamwork back there. It's reaching the community. Thank you.
Yeah, so with the annotations for the pose that you showed, kind of a two-part question. One, how many points was that? Just to get a sense of how many we were looking at, and what was the process to select those particular locations for the animals?
I have to go look. I don't remember.
Great question, though.
145. And I don't know.
All right, fair.
There you go, nice and succinct. Do we have any more questions from our VIP audience here at Google for Startups in beautiful Madrid? Any more questions from the community? I'm saying any more questions? Going once? Going twice? Any hands up? Am I missing anything? It's quite possible.
I don't think they have any questions.
There's no further questions, Your Honor. Okay. My dear friends, big round of applause for David Scott. Excellent.